Good morning, I'm Ben Shepherd. Today I am working with some iron, making some wrought iron handrails, welding those for a customer. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about a subject in my new book. There we go. The Book of Say. In this book I talk about the beloved community, and I wanted to speak a little bit about its origins. Being a white cisgender male living in the majority of my life in the southern part of the United States, it is rare to ever hear a white man of that category ever talk about the beloved community, which is something that you normally hear referenced from Dr. Martin Luther King's work. He coined the phrase the beloved community, and often people in the South or people in the world associate that with the civil rights community. And the principle of the beloved community, the meaning of the beloved community, is that everyone has the right to live their lives any way they choose to live it, which is a very beautiful statement. It covers every single person in the world ever born, but it also gives a concrete definition. Every single person has the right to live their lives any way they choose to live it. Now, that doesn't mean that you can be immoral. We have a justice system. If you choose to live your life in an immoral way or an evil way, then our government will correct you. You may go to prison. You may face any number of things, just as our country puts sanctions on other countries, and we receive sanctions. It is for the wrong action. So you have to face that. So your society will correct you. Also, if you choose to do good things for your society will reward you. But I thought it was very beautiful that the beloved community is that every single person has the right to live their life any way they choose to live it. If you choose to be a doctor, you have the right to have an education to be a doctor. If you choose to be a blue-collar worker of iron and steel and welding, then that is your choice and that is your right. Where this started for me, the study of the beloved community, was in 2017, August the 11th. I was living in Charlottesville, Virginia, and at that time, my girlfriend, my significant other, we went to the farmer's market on a Saturday morning. And when we were driving into the town of Charlottesville, there was just this really strange vibe going on. We got to the farmer's market. There was not many people there, and there was all this strange, there was helicopters flying over, all this stuff was going on, and we knew that there was going to be some type of rally, but we didn't fully know or understand. And so when we talked to the people at the farmers market, we realized there was the Unite the Right rally, which is a white supremacist group that had come to Charlottesville to protest, and they were 2 blocks away. So we walked up to this area, and when we got there, there were militia groups carrying AR-15s, multiple groups set out around a local park in Charlottesville. There were clearly already people like us walking up, which were shocked to see this in our little town, and there was immediate bickering that started going on, people spitting, people pushing, this fever pitch and confusion. And then all of a sudden there became this chant that we heard coming down the road, and here was a whole group of, I will call them boys, I can't describe them as men. They were in polo shirts and khakis, and they were chanting this blood and soil chant coming in. And as soon as they got close, these militias with their machine guns and such as that, guarded them, protected them as they walked up. And all these guys in these polo shirts and their chubby bellies and white faces began to sneer behind the protection of these militia groups. And it was sickening. And you could feel this vibe going on. And I turned to my girlfriend and I said, "It's time for us to leave." And she did not want to leave. She wanted to see all of that stuff. But I got her to leave, and we walked back a block into Charlottesville on the main mall. And here was the entire, I will not say the entire, but a large number of the Charlottesville police force in their riot gear, sitting at tables on Main Street where no one was, on their cell phones, not doing anything about the chaos that was going on, a block away. And we stayed there for a little bit because we were kind of shocked to see this. We thought they were soon going to react, obviously, to what was going on. You could start to hear gunshots, these types of things. And I eventually told B, we have to leave. We have to go now. And we did. And we came home, and later on the news, we heard that Heather Heyer had been run over, maliciously murdered by a car. And that really affected me a lot because we were standing exactly where Heather Heyer was murdered. And I realized that if we had not left when we did, that very well could have been my significant other at that time. That could have died, and very likely could have been. And I'm so thankful that we did leave when we did. At the same time, it is heartbreaking to see your community rent apart like that, to see those types of things happen. And my heart, as someone who has experienced loss of all their loved ones, my heart absolutely broke. But I also learned from that, even though I'd had all of these life experiences of living around the world, I did not fully know about racism, about how does society get to this point. And so for me, I began to start reading immediately. And I know it may sound a little naive, but the first book that we had in our house on the shelf was a copy of Uncle Tom's Cabin. And I picked that up and I started to read it. And even through that work alone, my senses were chastised. And I started reading more and more. And I had already lived in the Caribbean for 10 years and experienced a certain amount of this reverse racism, to where if you are a white person living in the Caribbean, you may very well come out of the grocery store and there will be a police officer at your car with a tape measure, and they will be measuring from your bumper of your car to the parking lines. You may be completely within the parking place, but then they will say, "You're too close," and you have to pay a $175 ticket because even though you were parked in your parking place, you were too close to one side of it. Things like that. Going to get insurance for your car, you could be waiting with 3 or 4 people, and the 3 people in front of you who may be locals, their car insurance for the year may be, let's say, $250 a year. And then you sit down as a outsider, and all of a sudden your car insurance is $1,250 a year, and you have to pay it in cash. So I had already experienced some things like that, but here in my home, seeing what just unfolded of armed people in the streets, of this division, of something that did not absolutely resonate with me, it disgusted me. I needed more information because there was something in me that was lacking in my understanding. So after I read Uncle Tom's Cabin, I began to study history, a history of slavery. And I went back as far as I could find. In our limited amount of knowledge, we consider that our world may be 12,000 years old. Now we're realizing that there has been vast civilizations here long, long, long before that. But what I could find in the printed word showed me as slavery initially being people of Caucasian descent that were taken into lower climes, southern climes, and indentured servants. They could eventually work off or work their way out of slavery. Then you had the African trade that came across, and that just blew my mind of what could happen in these African tribes of people using faith and religion and these things to trap these individuals and to tell them that it was God's will for them to be slaves to serve and those types of things. One of the best museums that I have found that you can see some of this stuff is in Puerto Rico. San Juan, Puerto Rico, and one of the castles one of the old forts has this incredible museum that shows photos, that actually shows irons and this thing. It's completely different than anything that you will find in the United States. In the United States, especially in the South, houses go up for sale and they say, oh, slaves were kept here, and they'll show chains from the wall, and it's something for profit. It is something that unfortunately a lot of people glorify. We don't see the real truth of it here in the United States. If you go to Puerto Rico, you go to Haiti, you go to Bermuda, you will actually see some very surprising things of how slaves were treated, and it is heartbreaking. We look at Haiti became a central hub for slavery, slave markets. And when you talk about slavery from thousands of years ago, how it is affected, you create this legacy history. It becomes part of people's DNA. We look at the difficulties that are going on in Haiti, the strife, all of these things that can happen, the race wars that happen quite oftenly that we do not hear about throughout the Caribbean islands, through, say, Venezuela, Ghana, all of these other places that can happen. And it stems from that legacy, that DNA, that something in there that people who are from lineage of slaves, there is something in them that has to be gotten out. There's a voice in them screaming that something is not right, something has been done, whether it's a past lifetime. It is in their legacy, and when you understand that in a global mindset, when you get out of your state, when you get out of your country, and you start looking at the wave, the Gulf Stream, so to speak, of slavery in the world, then all of these points around the globe all of a sudden start to make sense. These cultural wars that you see, these types of things, the confusion, it all starts to make a very clear picture of, as Wordsworth said, what man has made of man. In my book, The Book of Say, I talk about Dr. Martin Luther King. I talk about beloved community. I talk about slavery. I talk about racism. I talk about murder. And that was all important. And a lot of that in this book stemmed from that experience in Charlottesville, August 17th, 2011. And And it made such an impact on my life, and I learned so much when I committed myself to the study of this, so I could understand it, so I could become a better um, member of my society, which is the world, not just Virginia. Excuse me. That I had to include that in the book. I will say that, and one thing that impressed me about Dr. Martin Luther King is that though he was a Baptist and preached at a Baptist church, he did not see that as the only way to God, right? The definition of a false religion is anything that says there is only one path to God. If a religion says there is only one path to God, if a traditional religion, a religious traditional faith says there is one path to God, it is a false religion. That's what is so powerful about Dr. Martin Luther King going and visiting Gandhi. The nonviolent protest, the two of them uniting for a common good. They were both from different religious traditions, and yet their core message was the same: of building, of supporting, of faith, love, of equality for all, a beloved community. That was beautiful. I would also like to say that Dr. Martin Luther King would not have had nearly the impact in his life if it would not have been for his wife, Sister Coretta Scott King, who is a phenomenal woman. If you have not read or studied the life of Sister Coretta Scott King, please do that. An accomplished opera singer, a wonderful mother, a wife, and the burden that fell on her shoulders after the murder of Dr. King was phenomenal, and how she continued to I wouldn't say that she preached Dr. King's message. I would say that she preached her message and moved that forward all the way until her death. I really appreciate Sister Coretta Scott King. I cannot mention the two individually because they were together in their focus and their unity. I hope that that explains some of why I put this message in my book. I firmly believe that. In writing this book and studying that, I had some stickers made that said "The Beloved Community." I put those on my work trucks, on my toolboxes, those types of things. And that's, again, that brings in, as a white man in the South working a blue-collar trade, that brings up points of conversation because everyone just assumes that you think like they do, or you think like they were raised. And so those were interesting things. I will also talk sometime in a later video about free will, but I just wanted to talk a little bit today about the beloved community and what that means, that every single person has the right to live their life any way they choose to live it. And I hope you embrace that. Be good to yourself today. I'm gonna finish up this welding. Remember the fundamental things: faith, hope, and love. Take care.